Film gods, how are you guys? It's been a week. It's been a hot minute. I can't lie. Speaking like my running team. Yeah, couldn't get it all together for last week to get an episode. Had a couple of people lined up, but it's just got busy for them, or they're away, or they're doing a recce. So I didn't stress. I had a little look online and saw that the Cannes Film Festival was just about to finish. So I just waited, had a little look up, had a little read, and today's ep we got 3 articles that I really just enjoyed researching and looking up. First one about Canal Plus, second one about Trump's tariffs hijacking the Cannes Film Festival, and then finish with a small article about Dogma 25, which is the new wave of the Dogma 95. So it's like an adaptation, a new way of looking at making films that a handful of Danish kind of film crew members, creatives, directors, producers, etc. have put together. The new vow of chastity, and I liked it. I like what they're doing. I like that they're taking, or they're projecting forward to the future, and they're looking at, special effects, AR, AI, VR, all of the acronyms, and how it's, one, totally propelled film into a limitless art form, where you can be in space, where you can be on Mars, where you can be anywhere that you could, and have and see anything that you can imagine in your head, you can have on screen. And what they're looking to do is just take it back to its earliest art form, which is we film what we see, where we are, with what we have, and I like that. In a weird little way, it's kind of taking it back to kind of student filmmaking, where it was just you, a bunch of mates, of rough scripts that you worked on, some locations that you just kind of scattered together because you knew the person, or it's a friend's parents' house or whatever. And I'm be interested to see, in looking ahead, how that movement grows. From the other side of life, commercials are still in its weird little world of inconsistency, and someone mentioned it the other day on set, and they, I love them, and they just kind of said that they're happy that they're towards the end of their career rather than at the beginning. And I think that really rings true with a generation of filmmakers, film crew that had the 80s, the 90s, the noughties, where there was a process. You shot on film, you rehearsed, you shot, you were on location, you had caterers, you had actors. There was just a way of doing things, and there was a platform for that content that you made, and it was the television. And those adverts that you made had prime eyeball real estate between the news, between EastEnders and all those British institution TV programs, and advertisers wanted to get their products seen by the people on the telly. And now that's changed, and it's been coming probably for the last 10 years. The change is coming, the evolution has happened, Now we just got to see how the dust settles and what we do at the back end. And I'm very fortunate to have been and grew up in the old ways, but be young enough to adapt and accept the new. So as always, ladies and gents, nice little short intro. Always sending love. Always sending love and positive thoughts. And whatever is happening will not last forever. This too shall pass, as they say. So if you're going through a hard time, this too shall pass. If you're having the busiest year you've ever had, this too shall pass. But it's end of May. We're getting close to the summer. Inshallah, the summer is crazy busy and all of you have loads of pencils and loads of work and lots of invoicing to be done. Shout out to Creative Caves. Massive love to all of the messages that I got from the last episode that we dropped, which is Don Beechino, who is a kind of business life coach, mentor of mine, because we are going through something. It's evident that the bottom of the sea has been unsettled by the waves above, and it will settle and everything will calm down and we will find and have a new norm. But until then, he had some really good insights of how to just keep it calm, keep it cool, keep carrying on. Ladies and gents, love ya. Let's get to the app.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yep. So, as mentioned in the intro, got 3 little articles that I just want to kind of bounce between and roll off, as I think it just gives a nice little idea of where we are as an industry worldwide. So the first one is from Screen Daily. It's an article written by Rebecca Leffler on the 20th of May 2025, and the title is French and International Film Industry Brace for Impact of Canal Plus Cuts. So the French industry is bracing itself for the impact of Canal Plus's reduced investment in French cinema over the next 3 years that is estimated will result in some 30 to 40 less films made a year, mostly auteur-driven European co-productions. Producers are starting to realize what is ahead, said Manuel Alduy, A-L-D-U-Y. Let's say Alduy, head of cinema at France Televisions. We are worried there will be a real drop in the number of middle films with budgets between 4 to 6 million euros. FYI, gone with the kind of British accent because I don't want to start going. Like, there's a few of these articles and there's people speaking from all over the world. So I'm just going to keep it BBC. I'm just going to keep it posh, and I'm just going to keep it British. So Canal Plus is the partner of choice to support films from visionary auteurs and emerging talents, known as diversity films in France. This reduction in investment is extremely worrisome for us as independent producers, says Julie Billy, co-founder of the Naum de Namur of Jeune Film, whose upcoming film Fanny Liotard and Jérémy Trouillier, Trouilhs, apologies to all my French people, I have no idea how to pronounce that, but Jérémy Trouilliers' Green Eyes is financed by Canal Plus. A reduced investment would inevitably have an impact since films don't cost less. Inflation is continuing. If Canal Plus doesn't swoop in to support first and second films with a daring auteur vision or without recognizable cast, we risk losing diversity. Producer Eduardo Sosa Soria of Paris, I don't know why I went Spanish, but it seemed either Portuguese or something like that. So, producer Eduardo Sosa Soria of Paris-based Le Feline God, Jesus, I'm so sorry, everyone. I need to practice my French. Added, it's a tragedy because filmmakers will not be born. Canal Plus has pre-financed a slew of films at this year's Cannes Film Festival, including competition titles Alpha, Vie Privée, and Case 137. It is reducing its investment to 408 million over the next 3 years from more than 600 million between 2022 and 2024. So that leads me into the Cannes article, but I guess from straight off the bat, it's kind of saying across the board in another European country, money is being lost in the creative industries and films aren't going to be made. And I think what this is trying to say here, and what I understand it, is that, the films that my friend said, like my friend Sasha Nathwani made Last Swim, those films will be really hard to get off the ground because all they're looking is for guaranteed money instead of great films. And if we look back at the 90s and, go back further, films were made because they would have been great films, not because they were guaranteed a return. So let's just keep that up our sleeves. So the next article is from France24.com online, and it was written by Benjamin Dodman, 22nd of May. And I really particularly enjoyed this article because it gives a nice variety and range of info from across the globe. And it just ties in nicely. It's a Cannes theme article. It's a Cannes theme podcast, as you can tell, just because we are going global, or we are global. So not the pod. The title is Cannes 2025. Did Trump's tariffs hijack the world's busiest film market? Subtitle: US President Donald Trump's threat to slap crippling tariffs on foreign-made movies has dominated discussions at the Cannes Film Festival, dampening the mood at the film market that runs parallel with the festival and frustrating movie professionals who were looking for a boost from cinema's glitziest showcase. So, yeah, as I said, written by Benjamin Dodman. The frantic French Riviera gathering typically slows down midway through its second week when the world's busiest film market draws to a close and cinemas dealmakers pack up and head home. Deep in Cannes' Palais des Festivals, beneath the iconic red carpet and movie theatres, the film market's sprawling maze of booths, conference halls, and screening rooms was mostly an empty shell by late Wednesday, with only a few diehards holding out. They included the team from LA-based production and distribution company California Pictures, whose box was still a beehive of activity decked out with posters for their latest rom-coms, thrillers, and sci-fi movies. Given the time and money we put into Cannes, we might as well use up every minute of the market, says Jennifer Margot Giron, the company's head of acquisitions and marketing. While her boss has proclaimed this the best market since COVID, Margot Giron gave a more cautious assessment, citing uncertainty over Trump's tariff plans as one factor behind relatively weak demand for indie films. Cannes will always be the top venue for our industry. You can't miss out on the market, she says. But nowadays you hear people say they make more money at the nearby casino than selling films here. Subtitle: All about Trump. The US president's threat to drag the movie world into his trade wars has rattled an industry that is still recovering from the COVID-19 shutdown, historic Hollywood strikes, and the disruption caused by streaming platforms like Netflix. In the run-up to the festival, Trump announced a 100% tariff on all movies produced in foreign lands on his Truth Social platform. He claimed the US film industry was dying a very fast death. Still doing the hands when you speak about him. because an increasing number of filmmakers were shooting in other countries to take advantage of tax incentives or cheaper production costs. Short on details, his plans have brought confusion to a market that runs on trust in the industry's ability to shoot, package, and distribute films on time and on budget, and which relies on the Cannes showcase to boost confidence. At the glitzy Riviera gathering, film workers have made no secret of their frustration at seeing their most important annual rendezvous hijacked by Trump's America First agenda. As one executive told The Hollywood Reporter earlier on in the festival, we've got Tom Cruise on the red carpet in Cannes, and all anyone will want to talk about is Trump and tariffs. Once again, he succeeded in making it all about him. Subtitle: Movie stuck in customs. The notoriously politics-averse Cruise steered clear of the subject as he returned to Cannes for his latest installment in the Mission Impossible saga, which was shot in multiple countries all over the world, taking advantage of just the kind of foreign production incentives Trump has in his sights. Others at the festival have been highly vocal in their criticism of the US president and his plans for the movies. As he picked up a career Palme d'Or on the opening night, screen legend Robert De Niro set the tone with a blistering attack on America's Philistine president, urging the industry to join the fight for democracy. US filmmakers in Cannes have poked fun at the very notion of putting tariffs on movie making, questioning the feasibility of Trump's plans. Does this mean you can hold up the movie in customs? Joked Wes Anderson at the press conference for his star-studded competition entry, The Phoenician Scheme, which was shot at Studio Babelsberg in Germany. That's not going to happen, right? The guy changes his mind like 50 times in one day, added Richard Linklater, whose competition entry Nouvelle Vague was shot in France. Eyes went a little bit blurry there, staring at a screen for too long. He praised the French for protecting their film industry with tax breaks and other incentives. They make sure it's healthy. They help it. The government, they're all in, from production to distribution, Linklater told reporters. The US could use a little bit of that. Subtitle: Cultural War. While Trump's tariffs threats have spooked Europe, his threats to wage war against EU regulations that protect and promote European cinema have caused even greater alarm. The regulations take many forms, but typically include measures such as taxing cinema tickets to fund independent filmmakers, quotas for European or non-English language productions, or forcing major studios to fund domestic productions. Trump has described them as overseas extortion. On Sunday, several dozen European filmmakers staged a rally at a beach cafe on Cannes' iconic Boulevard de la Croisette, where they read a declaration denouncing the cultural war waged by the Trump administration. They urged EU decision-makers not to give up on rules protecting their industry in trade talks with Washington. The very survival of Europeans' film industry is at stake here, said French filmmaker Jérôme Enrico, one of the sponsors of the declaration signed by the likes of Claude Lelouch and Italy's Paolo Sorrentino. We don't want culture to be treated just like any commodity, he says. Yes, it's an industry, but it's also an art form, and we can't treat cinemas like cars or steel. Subtitle: Korean no-show. The tariff debate has been less of an issue for the Asian film industries that are always a fixture of the Cannes film market. At the South Korean pavilion, Sejong Han of the Korean Film Council open bracket, COFIC, close bracket, pointed to both structural and cultural differences with Europe's film industry. We haven't developed the same culture of cross-border co-productions as Europe, she explained. And we don't have the same instinct to team up with our neighbors when it comes to resisting America. South Korean cinema is also absorbed by its own problems, Han added. For the first time in a quarter of a century, no Korean film has been invited to Cannes' official lineup this year. In a huge setback for a country that gave us the 2019 Palme d'Or with Bong Joon-ho's Parasite and saw Park Chan-wook pick up the Best Director award in 2022 for his decision to leave. Full stop. I should practice my reading and intonation. The Cannes no-show has sparked soul-searching about a business model in which domestic blockbusters crowd the art house film that have made the industry's global fame, preventing the emergence of new talent. We need to question our model and perhaps open up to international co-production so that we bounce back stronger, said Han. Subtitle, A Blessing in Disguise. With a question mark. A blessing in disguise? The mood was more upbeat at the Pavilion House. Sorry, I'll start again. The mood was more upbeat at the pavilion housing the Agence Culturelle Africaine, the ACA, which supports African film productions and is hailing a strong addition for the continent. Its director, Aminata Diop Johnson, cited the breakthrough success of My Father's Shadow by Akinola Davis Jr., the first Nigerian film to land an official slot in Cannes. Having a film in the official selection is a strong incentive for countries to send delegations to the festival and boost investment in their film industries, she said, pointing to the nearby Nigerian pavilion, the first in Cannes, where a Nigerian government delegation has unveiled plans to turn the country's bustling movie sector into a global heavyweight. Diop Johnson played down the threat of US tariffs, suggesting it could be a blessing in disguise for emerging film industries. After the initial shock of Trump's announcement, industry workers immediately started looking for other investors, said the ACA director, who had organized Cannes panels with investors from across the globe. Reducing our reliance on the US could actually be a good thing. Subtitle, Brazil's Trump imitator. At farewell drinks hosted by film workers from Brazil, the market's country of honor this year, producers Paula Santos and Lucas Sander drew a parallel between Trump's protectionist plans for cinema and wider geopolitical shifts currently at play. Films in Brazil traditionally look for the US for investment, but coming to Cannes has put us in touch with filmmakers from China, Taiwan, and other countries, opening up new possibilities, said Sander. It comes at a time when Brazil is drawing closer to BRICS countries. First-timers in Cannes, Santos and Sander, have been looking for investors to support their first feature, Fragilities, a body horror film. They say a busy week of in-person meetings and industry workers from all continents has made the financial sacrifice worthwhile for their small production company, Tauma, T-A-U-M-A, Tauma. But they remain acutely aware of the political threats weighing over the film world. We had our own Trump imitator with, open bracket, former president, close bracket, Jair Bolsonaro, who dissolved Brazil's culture ministry and almost destroyed our film industry, said Santos, who fears the far-right maverick might one day return to power like his US mentor. Trying to put borders in the movie world like Trump wants to do is not just bad for our industry, added Sander. It's also a way of attacking culture and diversity. I did like that article. It was so lovely because you're hearing about, one of the largest film markets and festivals in the world at Cannes, and how bustling it would normally be. But actually, it feels like everything's just a little bit, it's like a lackluster. The confidence got beaten out of the industry, potentially with the strikes, potentially with COVID, potentially with, insert whatever you want into that little paragraph. And what people are doing now, and what I take from that article is a potential less reliance on the US, keeping things in house, keeping things becoming self-reliant, self-serving, self-actualizing as a nation making film. And that leads me on to the last article that again comes from Cannes, because as you know, it's the Cannes ep. And I just really liked this because it's it kind of ties in with all the AI chats we've been having on set, everything that we've been talking about recently about human endeavor in film. And there was an article that came about. Now I was reading about Dogma 25. And so I just want to read and finish the ep with this article. And this is from Euronews, and it is written by David Muriquand. Muriquand? Everything I say is in a Spanish accent, so apologies if it's not. So, and this is anyone that knows about film and the Dogma movement. It's having a potential resurgence through these people, and we're going to talk about it and have a little look at what they're putting forward. So, the article, the third and final article, is titled "A Cultural Uprising. What is Dogma 25? The new cinematic movement unveiled in Cannes." So, 3 decades after the first and hugely influential Dogma wave, 5 filmmakers are initiating a new cinematic movement, Dogma 25. It is a defiant response to current events and a marked opposition to the internet. 30 years after the original cinematic movement, a group of Danish and Swedish filmmakers have relaunched the avant-garde Dogma 25 with a sorry, checking my phone because that's the attention span that we have at the minute. 30 years after the original cinematic movement, a group of Danish and Swedish filmmakers have relaunched the avant-garde Dogma 95 with a new manifesto that has been updated for the internet age. In a world where film is based on algorithms and artificial visual expressions are gaining traction, it's our mission to stand up for the flawed, distinct, and human imprint, said May El-Touki, Milhad Alami, Annika Berg, and Isabella Elkloff, and Jesper Just in a statement read at the Cannes Film Festival, and Jesper Just, yeah, in a statement read at the Cannes Film Festival. We champion the upcoming and unpredictable, and we fight against the forces working to reduce cinematic art to an ultra-processed consumer product. Described in its manifesto as a rescue mission on a cultural uprising, Dogma 25 has been endorsed by the 2 best-known directors to emerge from the original Dogma movement, Thomas Vinterberg and Lars von Trier, as well as von Trier's production company, Zentropa. Both filmmakers said in a statement, "In 95, we made films in a certainty of peace and created a revolt against conformity. In 25, new dogmas are created. Now, in a world of war and uncertainty, we wish you the best of luck on your march towards reconquering Danish film. For those who need a refresher, Dogma 95 was a manifesto unveiled by von Trier and Winterberg, which highlighted a set of rules aimed at creating films based on the traditional values of story, acting, and theme, while excluding the use of special effects. Both filmmakers wanted to establish a new extreme, saying, in a business of extremely high budgets, we figured we should balance the dynamic as much as possible. The manifesto, which mimicked Truffaut's Une certaine tendance du cinéma, the Cahiers du Cinéma article, which kickstarted the French New Wave in 1954, compiled a vow of chastity. These were the terms that would determine whether or not a film could be considered part of the Dogma 95 movement. The 10 rules were: 1. Shooting must be performed on location without providing props or sets that don't logistically exist within the setting. 2. Diegetic sound only. Sound must never be produced, such as music that does not exist within the scene. 3. All shots must be handheld. Movement, immobility, and stability must be attained by hand. 4. The film must be in color with no special lighting. If there's not enough exposure, a single lamp may be attached to the camera. 5. There can be no optical work or lens filters. 6. No superficial action, such as staged murders, elaborate stunts, etc. 7. Temporal and geographical alienation is strictly forbidden, meaning the film must take place here and now. 8. No genre movies. 9. Academy 35mm is the only accepted film format. And 10. Directors must not be credited. I love that last little bit. They're just like, nope, nothing to do with us. So Dogma 95 would develop into a collection of 35 films, but the best known are 1998's Festen and the Idiots, two hugely influential films for contemporary European cinema. In 2002, it was generally accepted that Dogma 95 had ended, especially following the statement made by Winterberg. It was always meant to be a wave, and they don't go on forever. The Dogma 25 manifesto contains 10 new dogmas. The filmmakers said that they have taken a new vow of chastity to uphold the rules, which they explained are influenced by three central themes: a return to the physical reality, aesthetic restraint, and economic and geographic accountability. The new manifesto also retains one of the original's self-imposed rules. And most challenging of the new rules is that Dogma 25 films must be made in no more than a year, and the use of the internet is off limits in all creative processes. I love it. So here is the full new manifesto. Dogma 25 is a collective of filmmakers founded in Copenhagen in the spring of 25. Our stated purpose is to preserve the originality of cinema and the opportunity to create film on its own terms. The role of the director has increasingly been reduced to that of project manager, the film to a commodity, and the audience to consumers. Experimental practice is stifled by fear of risk-taking, which suffocates artistic exploration and silences unique voices. When films are merely executed and not allowed to evolve organically, it puts the art form in danger of becoming functional, obedient, and thereby irrelevant. In a world where formulaic films based on algorithms and artificial visual expressions are gaining traction, it's our mission to stand up for the flawed, distinct, and human imprint. We champion the uncompromising and unpredictable, and we fight the forces working to reduce cinematic art to an ultra-processed consumer good. By scaling down production, we ensure that everyone on the team has an intimate relationship with the film and its message. This will enhance mutual trust and a sense of collective responsibility for the film and for each other. It also allows us to safeguard the flexibility that is vital in making a creative process dynamic and intuitive rather than purely executive. We celebrate Dogma 95, all the filmmakers who came before us, and those who will come after. We stand together to defend artistic freedom as a shield against pointlessness and powerlessness. Dogma 25 is a rescue mission and a cultural uprising. To protect and preserve what we hold dear, we hereby submit to the unflinching and unbreakable set of rules called the vow of chastity. So the vow of chastity. I vow to submit to the following set of rules drawn up and confirmed by Dogma 25. 1. The script must be original and handwritten by the director. We compel ourselves to write the script by hand in order to nurture the kind of intuition that flows most freely from the dream, channeled through the hand into the paper. 2. At least half the film must be without dialogue. We insist on a cinematic approach to filmmaking because we believe in visual storytelling and have faith in the audience. 3. The internet is off limits in all creative processes. We commit to produce the films relying on real people with our physical reality rather than in a digital one infused with algorithms. 4. We'll only accept funding with no content altering conditions attached. We assume responsibility for keeping budgets down so the team retains final say in all artistic decisions. 5. No more than 10 people behind the camera. We commit to working in close collaborations to build trust and strengthen our shared vision. 6. The film must be shot where the narrative takes place. Film as an art form becomes artificial and generic when we portray a location in a false light. 7. We're not allowed to use makeup or manipulate faces and bodies unless it's part of the narrative. Just as we strive to maintain the authenticity of the location, we also want to portray the human body without a filter. We celebrate it, warts and all. 8. Everything relating to the film's production must be rented, borrowed, found, or used. We commit to making films using objects that already exist and renounce the ahistorical and self-destructive culture of consumerism. 9. The film must be made in no more than 1 year. We abstain from any lengthy processes that stand in the way of creative flow. 10. Create the film as if it were your last. The new initiative has been met with excitement, with Time Fisher, the director of the Danish Film Institute, saying, "Any system, even one that runs impeccably, needs examining, needs challenging, needs to cast a courageous look on itself." Throughout the last decades, Danish film has distinguished itself internationally with myriads of Academy and Cannes nominations and a unique position in our own market. We are known globally as a strong nation for film, and Danes here at home love Danish film, but no success has a lifetime guaranteed. She continues, 30 years ago, Dogma 95 turned the eyes of the world toward Denmark and left a radical imprint on our national self-image as a filmmaking nation. The people were few, the number of films limited, but the impact was huge. We need these brave artistic visions now more than ever. Visions befitting a new time, which is exactly what the new Dogma 25 represents. A strong group of noticeably different filmmakers who have collectively committed to artistic radicalism. How do we make films? How do we ensure our freedom of expression is a distinctly challenged in a distinctly challenged geopolitical world? And how do we safeguard the singularity of art? She added, as a film institute, we are facing a time where our cultural contributions are tasked with ensuring the state of the art Danish films now and in the future. It's not a simple task, but deep inside the task lies the ability, as a system, to make space for film as a free art form, for innovation, perspectives. This is why we are especially happy and proud to support Dogma 25 in their early stage, both with concept development and the international launch in Cannes. So I mean, three articles all centered around France and Cannes and what was coming out of it. So, we started off with the news that Canal Plus is going to be reducing its budgets. And they had that. I really did enjoy that Cannes article where it kind of looks at France and Africa and the Middle East and Korea, and it just gave a nice little global, how one central place is a global hub for film, and how that hasn't had its best year. And then finishing with the talk of Dogma 25, which, look, there's always going to be film that are going to have more than 10 people, but I think setting some limits, in all honesty, it kind of feels like when I was back at film school and making those films, and that love and passion, and there was, about 10 of us, and the cast would do their own makeup, and you'd be doubling up on roles, and you'd produce it and then you'd first it, or you'd direct it, and you'd shoot it. And I think as we've moved further and further, and as we move further and further into a world of paint by numbers blockbusters, having a group of people try and distill filmmaking back down to its simplest form and set some rules, because then you all know what you got to adhere to and what you got to attain to. I like it. And I think from an art, I look at it from an AD's perspective. No internet, no, I guess in theory then what they're saying is no computers, so no scripts made in Movie Magic or other, softwares, editing, film, script breakdown softwares. Um, there's loads of other ones, but say, from a Movie Magic perspective, how on point have you got to be with your script? There's no making changes the day before, the night after, on wrap. It's back to how when my bosses said that call sheets were posted out to you. Your call sheet was mailed to you in the post. That's how prepped things had to be. Not, us in the call she out at 10:30 at night the night before because we were still waiting to get this and get that and get this. So technology has done some wonderful things and will carry on doing wonderful things. But those wonderful things come with a price. And that price is our time and quality, and thinking that everything can be left to the last minute because an email is instant. You send it, ping, you've done your job, not realizing that actually at 10:30 at night, some crew have gone to bed. So going back to films being prepped, you write it, you prep it, you shoot it all in a year, or without the internet. I'm going to look forward to seeing how the Dogma 25 movement progresses, evolves. And to anyone listening in Denmark, I'd love to get you on. So if you're there, if you're part of that Dogma 25, give us a shout. Film God podcast. Going to be going back to the old school EPs. It's been busy, as I said in the intro, but we're going to have kind of people coming on talking about what they do. But I do like these little article driven podcasts that can just give everyone a little bit more factual info about the industry at the minute instead of me and my opinion. So ladies and gents, if you like it, share it. Big love, have an amazing time, and until we meet again, that is a wrap.
So that was a chat with the king or queen in the game. I'll give it a shout at the end so you all know the name. It's the Film Gods Podcast. The what? The Film God Podcast.